I was sitting back before the service, and I was thinking, what am I doing here tonight? My, what am I doing here tonight? And I covet your prayers and ask that the Lord will somehow touch us as we would share together. We appreciate this nice-looking group of graduates. Congratulations. My, you're taking a big step, a big step. I took this step in 1960. That's ancient, isn't it? 1960. But you're taking a big step. And I want to express my appreciation for Pastor Joel. And he's worked with you, or you wouldn't be here, many of you. And I was at the Christmas program, and the young people did such a fine job along with your pastor. And then at the Easter program, I just want to compliment the youth pastor and the fine job he's doing. And when I come in, especially for special services, revival meetings, and I see some of you young people scattered through the congregation, I want you to know I appreciate that. Are you back here yet? And I pray the Lord will continue to bless you. There have been graduates all across the years, but I doubt that there have been many times where there's more than there are of you at this time. I prayed that the Lord would help me to not preach a big sermon, but if I could just say something that you could take a hold of and go out here tonight and maybe make it something that would last with you. You know, the love and the prayers of your Christian friends and your family, and the goal of the church is to see you to really be something. If I were to ask you, and I can, who was the 16th president of the United States? Anybody know? Abraham Lincoln, when he was 9 years old, his dying mother left him a challenge that he never evidently forgot. It kindled a flame in his life that lasted for many, many years. And this is just simply what she said, 3 words: be something, Abe. Put your name on the end of that, would you? Be something. What a challenge it is. Her love, her teaching, her prayers created a vision that kindled a flame that continued to burn in the dark world in which he stepped out into to make him a blessing and to give him a great life. I don't want to paint a dark picture, but young people, without a doubt, the world that we face is dark. Dark with sin and sorrow and disappointment and despair. And you never know what's happening next. Just in the back of our little mission, not many days ago, someone was shot and killed. And so we live in a dark world. But I want to tell you something tonight. That if you want to be something, your future can be as bright as the promises of God. Your future in this dark world can be as bright as the promises of God. There are 3 suggestions that I would make to you tonight. For you to be something. I'm thinking about being an optimist. Optimism is important. Look for opportunities. Opportunities are important. And then establish some objectives in your life. Let me begin by asking the question, just how dark is this world? I read a bumper sticker some time ago that said, "Some days all I want to be is a missing person." That doesn't sound very encouraging, does it? Some days all I want to be is a missing person. I think of what's behind a statement like that. And then some college students giving their definition of life in a college newspaper. These are college students. One said, "Life is a joke that isn't funny." Another college student in the newspaper, "Life is a just sentence for the crime of being born." A third college student said, "Life is a disease that affected the earth in its old age, for which the only cure is death." You talk about a dark world. You talk about hopelessness. Abe, be something. A sociologist, Daniel Yengel, said in his observation that numbers of the best educated and most promising young adults have lost enthusiasm for their careers. This is what he calls it, a crisis of purpose. Oh, God, help us, young and old, to have purpose in our lives. Is this why our world is so dark? There's a crisis of purpose. In so many young Americans, something seems to have died. Something on the inside. And in recent years, I've been troubled by how many young people have committed suicide and how many graves I've had to stand by that paints the picture of how dark the world is. I want you to be something. Let me talk to you about being something. If you want to be something, you need to be, I believe, an optimist. I think all you teenagers understand that word. The result of pessimism and negative attitudes is darkness. You know, I grow weary of negative people. I mean, I don't make them my bosom buddies. Some people, I'm talking about, they grumble about the past. They can't see anything about the present, and they have no hope for the future. If you make those people your bosom buddies, you're going to live in a dark world. A little story that comes out of the 1870s. Milton Wright, who was a bishop, he was a bishop who went out to visit the churches on his district, and in that district there was a little college that he also visited. One day he was visiting at the college, and the president said to Bishop Wright, he said, "I believe the day will come when people will fly through the air." "Oh," he said to the president, "that you're guilty of blasphemy. God has reserved flight for the angels." But Bishop Wright, Milton Wright, had two boys at home whose names were Wilbur and Orville. That's the rest of the story. Two frogs fell into a deep cream bowl. The one was an optimistic soul. The other took the gloomy view. "We shall drown," he cried, and so, with no more ado, But the other frog, with a merry grin, said, "I can't get out, but I won't give in. I'll just swim round till my strength is spent, and then I'll die the more content." Bravely he swam to it would seem. His struggles began to churn the cream. On top of the butter at last he stopped, and out of the bowl he gaily hopped. What is the moral? 'Tis easily found. If you can't hop out, keep swimming around. I'm talking about optimism. A man that became a good friend of mine, and he used to come to our services, especially on Sunday evenings, and some of you will remember Ernie Pia. He was a businessman. He was from New Jersey. He lived near Christmas Village in his last years. In fact, I was at his bedside when he stepped out of this world into the very next one. And I had part in his funeral service over in New Jersey. One of the men who had something to say about Ernie Pia said something that I have never forgotten. He said concerning Ernie, he said, he showed up for life each day and gave it what he had. Oh, that could be said of me, that I show up for life each day and give it what I have. The little fellow in the ball league was crying out, "We're going to lose, we're going to lose, we're going to lose, we're going to lose, we're going to lose." The chaplain said, "No, you need to think more positively. You need to take a positive attitude." He said, "Yes, sir, I'm positive. We're going to lose." And they did. I like this story a little better, though. A little fellow was cheering and cheering and cheering for his team, and a stranger came by and asked, "Well, how are things going?" He said, "Great." Then he asked, "Who's winning?" "Oh," said, "they are." "Well, what's the score?" 20-0. "Well, how comes you're so excited and cheering?" He said, "We didn't get up to bat yet." You know, some people have lost the game before they get up to bat. Don't be that kind of a young person or an older person either. Could I encourage you to dream a big dream, because we serve a big God? Amen. We have a tendency to attract what we're expecting. You take a vulture. They dream of dead carcasses, and you'll find them out in the road at a roadkill, gobbling up a rabbit that's been hit by an automobile. But now bees, they dream of flower gardens and clover fields, and you'll find them in a clover patch. What we dwell on and what we think about has a lot to do with what happens to us. Job said, you remember the story of Job and all he went through? He said, "The thing that I feared has come upon me." The way we think and the way we act has a lot to do with what happens in our lives. If I say Walt Disney, you know the name, don't you, Walt Disney? When he submitted his first drawings for publication, he was rejected, and the editor said that he had no talent. But Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse entertained me when I was a boy. They entertained my children when they were kids, entertained my grandchildren, and now they even entertain my great-grandchildren. And actually, for a while, one of my great-grandchildren thought that he hung the moon. Everything was Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. Thomas Edison is another name that's familiar to all of you. When it was time for him to go to school, and he went to school, the teacher said, "He's too stupid to learn. No use to send him to school." But according to statistics, he invented and patented 1,150 inventions. You see, often people are wrong. Your parents may be wrong. Your teacher at school may be wrong. We may be wrong, but God knows that you have great potential. Great potential. I encourage you to be optimistic. Then secondly, I'm talking about if you want to be something, look for opportunities. John Henry Newman, who wrote Lead Kindly Light, said, and this is what I want you to get, and I believe this with all my heart. He said, "God has created me to do him some definite service, that he has committed some work to me which he has not committed to another." There's a spot, there's a place for you and you and you to fill that no one else can fill. I really believe that. I really believe that. You may, all the doors are closed, there's no place to go, we're living in hard times, the world is dark. You can believe that if you want to. But you don't need to spend the rest of your life on a dead-end street or standing on wit's end corner. There are open doors. And I believe that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He was my Savior as an 8-year-old boy when I knelt at Little United Brethren Church and prayed, and God heard my cry, and I poured out my heart to Him. Amen. And now as I'm facing my 81st birthday, He's still the same Jesus. Amen. He's still the same God. Thanks. Young people, I believe that this is our day. For you that are graduating, you seniors have come to the kingdom like Esther of old. You have come to the kingdom for a time such as this. I urge you to dedicate yourself to something worthwhile that you may be something. The fields are white on the harvest. There's opportunities everywhere. Now, we're all made different. But Christian personnel is needed in every field of service. The medical field, the educational field, the business world, church ministries, the political arena, homemakers, the military forces, musical circles, and the list could go on. And God has a place. God has a place. There is an opportunity for you. Think about this. William James said, "The greatest use of life is spending it for something that will outlast it." The greatest use of life is spending it for something that will outlast your life. Do you ever think of it this way? I believe that every problem is an opportunity in disguise. Anybody here facing any problems lately? I was with one elderly lady, and maybe she wasn't any older than I, but at that time, but I was young, and she was near death's door, and she was confined to the bed, and she said to me, she said, "I used to think that when you got old, the devil would let you alone." But she said, "He's fighting me right down to the very end." Every problem, I believe, is an opportunity in disguise. Let me illustrate this. In the world of transportation, the slow moving of a horse and buggy created a problem. It opened the door, and we had an automobile. Then we had the automobile, and that wasn't fast enough either. And you can't run that on water or in the air, and so that opened another door. You see, problems are often in disguise. Take the world of communication. Those little fellas riding horse, what were they called back in those early days, carrying a message from one place to another? Pony Express. Hey, you are awake, aren't you? A Pony Express, but problem. That takes too long to get. Well, that'd stop a lot of gossip, though, wouldn't it? Wow. Just thought of that. That's a new thought, Brother Martin. But Pony Express, and then we got the telegram, and then telephone, and now we have smartphones. I mean, they're smarter than me. I don't know hardly how to use them. But you see, with every problem, if we're on top and we want to succeed, if you want to be something, look for the opportunities that come in your life and in your way. And finally, if you want to be something, have some objectives. Without objectives, we kind of wander aimlessly through life, and the result is perspiration and frustration. And you know, the Apostle Paul, he really had an objective. He said in Philippians 1:21, "For me to live is Christ." He had an objective. Don't become a modern-day Alice in Wonderland. If you're a Christian, and I hope you are, you young people, You're sitting under good ministry, and you're in a church that loves you and really cares about you. Those buses wouldn't be running out there. Folks wouldn't be praying. You wouldn't receive that invitation and that love. But as a Christian, we know who we are. We know where we're going, and we know why. Right? As a Christian, we know who we are. We know where we're going, and we know why. The famous German philosopher, I wish I could say his name. If I had Robbie up here, I'd ask him, but it's a hard name, and Schleiermacher, I'll say. Schei is the words for barn, in Dutch, and Macher is make, so I'll name him Schleiermacher. One day, as an old man, he was sitting in a park bench, and the city park policeman came by, and he thought he was just a tramp. And he went up and shook him and said, "Who are you?" And the old philosopher said, "I wish I knew." And that's where a lot of people are today. They just wish they knew. Like the little girl who was riding along with her parents, and seemed like a long journey, and she was getting weary. Are we soon there? Anybody ever hear that? Are we soon there? And so they were driving along, and maybe we're going to the park with the swings, and they go by, and they ride on a little while, and Grandma's house is in that direction. Are we going to Grandma's house? We get some cookies, and they got there, and they just drove right past. Finally, she asked, "Where will we be when we get there?" And that's a question I would like to ask. You're traveling on the journey of life. We're headed down the road. You started as a baby, you went through these classes, you went through these years. Where will we be when we get there? Where are we going? Do we have some real objectives? I'd like to say this before I come to a conclusion about being something. No person, I believe this with all my heart, no person, regardless of their wealth or their abilities or their advantages or their energy, ever reaches their highest potential outside of Christ. Whatever we choose, whatever we do, however we're involved, whatever is part of our life, we'll never reach our highest potential until our objective lies in the eternal God. For me to live is Christ. Now you have some big decisions. What now? Where do your interests lie? What are your abilities? Listen to your heart. Talk to somebody that you have confidence in. Search your heart. Spend some time before God in prayer. Tell him, I want to be something. I want to be something. Three men were cutting stone. Asked the first man, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm cutting stone." It was a hot day. He was sweating. He said, "I'm cutting stone for 10 shillings a day." They went to a second man and asked him what he was doing. Well, he said, "I'm cutting stone and I'm making a living for my family." He went to the third man who was cutting stone and he asked him what he was doing. He said, "I'm building a cathedral. I'm helping Sir Christopher Wren construct one of the London's greatest cathedrals." Now, who do you suppose had the greatest vision? Who do you suppose had the greatest life? Who do you suppose was enjoying his work the most? The one that had the highest objective. I want to be able to say with Paul, "For me to live is Christ." If that can be said of you down the road, or you can say that, "For me to live is Christ." Be something, Abe. It appears that he was. The contributions he made He kept that vision, he kept that flame alive. Optimism? Well, from 1831 to 1850, there's a list of at least 11 major failures. Business, relationship, politics, and so on. It looked like he was striking out every time, but he was optimistic. Opportunity? Then in 1860, the American people overwhelmingly elected him the 16th president of the United States. And if I was asked you right off quick, what's the 15th, name of the 15th president, how many of you could answer like that? Or the 17th, but he was the 16th. And then the objectives: visit Gettysburg today. His fingerprints and footsteps are all over Gettysburg. The Emancipation Proclamation stands as a testimony. And so in closing, may the dying words of Abraham Lincoln's mother challenge each of you as you step out into a dark world to be something and to be what God would have you to be. Thank you.